The cold was not normal tonight. Dax wrapped his thermal jacket tighter as the wind howled over the snowy plains of the mining moon Carol 9. Ice crystals stuck to his beard. And even inside his suit, his fingers were going numb. The outpost lights flickered behind him as he walked toward the edge of the old crater. He wasn't supposed to be out this far. But the scanners had picked up strange movement heat signatures, and the command center ignored them. Old equipment. Glitch, they said. Dax didn't believe that. He had worked with old machines before. The signal was real. He followed the signal through the snowstorm, his boots crunching ice underfoot. Then, suddenly, he saw it partly buried in the snow. A strange metallic capsule, round edges, glowing blue panels. Not human tech. His heart raced. What the hell? He stepped closer and knelt beside it. The front was transparent. Ice covered most of the glass, but something moved inside. Dax wiped the frost away with his glove. His eyes widened. A woman, no. Alien woman. She was young, maybe early 20s by human standards. Her skin was pale, purple, smooth, with faint glowing patterns running along her collarbones. Her lips were cracked, her breath fogging up the glass. Her eyes fluttered open slightly, and locked onto his. She was alive. Dax pulled out his portable heater and aimed it at the capsule. The frost began to melt. He reached for the emergency latch and pulled hard. The seal popped open with a hiss. Cold air poured out. Her body trembled. She curled up, clutching something close to her chest. A baby. It was barely moving. The alien woman's lips moved. Her voice was faint, a whisper carried by the wind. Will, you share your warmth, with me. Dax froze. He looked around, nobody in sight. Just snow, storm, and silence. Every instinct told him to walk away. Don't get involved. Don't break protocol. But his chest ached. Couldn't leave her, not like this. He pulled his thermal blanket from his pack and wrapped it around her shaking form. She gasped softly as the warmth touched her skin. The baby let out a weak sound, a whimper. Can she breathe? Dax asked. The alien woman nodded slowly. She's just cold. So. Cold. Dax lifted the woman carefully. She was light. Her body trembled against him. The baby was still in her arms, held tight. He turned back toward the outpost. Hey, come on, let's get you inside before you freeze. 10 minutes later, the shelter door hissed shut behind him. Heating unit hummed as warm air filled the room. Dax laid the alien woman gently on his cot. He placed the baby beside her, then added 2 extra heat packs under the blanket. She shivered, eyes barely open. Drink this, he said, offering her a water tube. She took a sip and coughed. Then she looked at him with wide, glowing eyes. You're different than they said, she whispered. Different how, kind? Dax didn't answer. He pulled off his gloves and started heating up a food packet. You need calories? You both do. She looked down at the child. Her name's Yari. She's lucky to have a mother like you. No, she whispered, voice shaking. I'm the lucky one, that you came. Dax looked at her again. Her cheeks were flushed now. Color was returning to her face. She was still weak, but she wasn't dying anymore. He didn't know what to say. He had questions. Who was she? Why was she here? How did she end up in that capsule? But he didn't ask. Not yet. She needed rest. She needed safety. Outside, the wind howled louder, rattling the shelter walls. Dax moved to the console and checked the motion sensors again. A red blip flashed near the crater. It's just where he found the capsule. He zoomed in. Something was moving. Out there, slowly scanning the area. Metal legs, glowing eye, a drone. Damn, Dax whispered. She heard him. They're looking for me, she said. They'll find me. They always do. Not while I'm here, Dax replied firmly. She stared at him, unsure if she should believe it. But in that moment, surrounded by the hum of heaters and the scent of warmed food, she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Asterisk. The wind outside howled like a wounded beast, but inside the small shelter, it was quiet, too quiet. Dax sat on the floor near the heater, staring at the alien woman curled on his cot. Her name, he had learned, was Selah. The baby Ari was wrapped in his spare jacket, tucked against her mother's side. They both slept lightly, the kind of sleep that comes from exhaustion, not safety. Dax didn't sleep. His eyes were locked. On the monitor, the drone was still out there. It wasn't moving fast, but it was searching, back and forth, scanning the snowfields, its red eye glowing through the storm like a burning coal. That drone didn't belong to the human outpost. It belonged to something... else. He stood up, stretched his tired arms, and walked to his supply crate. He loaded an old pulse pistol. It barely had a charge left, but it was better than nothing. Behind him, Selah stirred. "You didn't leave," she said softly. Dax turned. "Why would I?" Her eyes met his deep violet, soft but scared. "'Cause I'm a fugitive. A hunted one. I saw how your kind treated others like me. Off-world." Dax didn't reply right away. He just walked over and knelt beside her. "We're not all the same. No," she whispered. "You're not." She tried to sit up, but winced in pain. Dax gently helped her lean back against the wall. "I need to ask," he said. "Why were you out there in a capsule, buried in the ice?" Selah closed her eyes. "I escaped. From what?" "Prison ship, not yours. Not humans. My own." Kind Dax's brow furrowed. "Your own kind imprisoned you." She nodded. "They call it cleansing. Any bloodline that mixes with ... outsiders, they erase them." Dax felt his stomach tighten. "You mixed?" "No. She," said, then looked toward the baby. "She is." Dax glanced at Yari. Small, quiet, sleeping soundly now. But her skin was a slightly different hue than Silah's. Lighter, with faint golden veins under the surface. "She's different." Selah whispered. "I thought makes her a threat too." Then Dax sat down beside her. The heater crackled softly. They were going to kill her. I begged. I offered myself, but they refused. So I stole a pod, locked us inside, and ejected during transport. I knew it was risky. I didn't think we'd land near anyone. But we did. Near you. She looked at him with tears forming in her glowing eyes. "Why did you help us, Dax?" Rubbed his jaw, thinking, maybe because I know what it's like to be thrown away. He said quietly. She tilted her head. "I used to be part of a mining crew. I blew the whistle when they were dumping waste near a water source. The company didn't like that. I was reassigned to this icy rock, alone." Silence settled between them. "I guess," he added, "we're both ... exiles." Selah gave a weak smile. "Maybe the ice brought us together." He smiled back, but then turned serious. "That drone out there, who does it belong to?" Her smile faded. "The executors. They're not soldiers. They single quotes. Cleaners. People. Anything that breaks their rules. If they find us, they won't," Dax said sharply. "Not while I'm breathing." Selah stared at him. "You're only one man." "One man is enough," he replied. "Especially a human." Later that evening, Dax checked the outer sensors again. The drone had moved closer. Hovering just outside the perimeter, he dimmed the shelter lights and activated the heat dampening. Field. It was an old trick he'd learned in the Terran Ice Cores lore. The heat signature hide from thermal scans. It wouldn't last forever, but it would buy them time. Selah sat up now, a little stronger. She rocked the baby slowly, humming a soft tune in a language Dax didn't recognize, but it was beautiful. Warm, like starlight wrapped in a song. "She looks better," Dax said. "She is," Selah smiled. "Thanks to you," he poured her. Another cup of warm nutrient broth. Shook it gratefully. Then she asked, "Why are you really here, Dax? You're no ordinary miner." He raised an eyebrow. "What makes you say that? You don't act like one? You're calm? ... trained?" "That gun, the sensor work. You were military once, weren't you?" Dax didn't answer right away. Then he nodded. "Earth defense. Tired early. Too many bad orders. Too many people left behind. I came here to forget." Selah looked at him with new eyes. "You didn't forget," she said softly. "You just waited for the right ones to save." The baby let out a small coo. Dax smiled, but then a sharp beep. The perimeter alarm blinked. He rushed to the screen. The drone was gone, and in its place 3 heat signatures, moving fast, heading straight toward them. The shelter lights flickered outside. The storm was dying, but the real danger was just beginning. Dax stared at the monitor. 3 heat signatures, fast, silent, coming straight toward the shelter like predators in the dark. He backed away from the screen. They're here. Sayla froze, holding baby Yari tighter. Her face turned pale. Executors, she whispered. They don't knock. Dax quickly moved to the supply crate and pulled out his old exoglove. It was cracked, wires exposed, but the shock function still worked, barely. Take the baby, he said, and get into the crawl space under the floor panel. Don't make a sound. No, Sayla said, voice shaking. They'll scan for life forms, then smother your heat, Dax said. Use the cold gel packs. I'll draw them away. She looked at him in disbelief. You'll die. Dax didn't blink. Better me than her. Sayla hesitated, then nodded. Her hands moved quickly, silently, pressing the baby to her chest and crawling to the floor panel. Dax showed her last night. She vanished beneath it. Pulling the cover closed behind her, Dax took a deep breath and shut off the remaining lights. The shelter went dark. Only the sound of the heater's slow hum remained, and Yari's small, desperate cry. Just before the panel sealed, bang dash bang dash bang. 3 sharp knocks at the airlock. Too polite, too fake. Dax opened the cum panel. State your business. A calm, hollow voice answered. This zone is under sweep review. Unauthorized biosigns were detected. Open the door. Funny, Dax replied, because this is my station, and I didn't authorize anyone. Pause, then open the door, or it will be removed. Dax smirked. Try me. Seconds later, the door blew open. Metal fragments flew across the room. Smoke filled the air. Through the haze stepped 3 tall figures in black exosuits, faceless helmets. No visible weapons. Executors. The first one scanned the room. Dax raised his pulse pistol and fired one's dead center. The bolt struck the chest plate. The executor didn't even flinch. Warning shot, Dax muttered. Dax was personal. The second executor stepped forward. Dax slammed his glove into the wall, console activating the short-range EMP he'd wired into the heater core. Booms up, crackle. Wave of blue light filled the room. Sparks flew. The 3 executors stumbled. One of them crashed into a table. Convulsing as its systems glitched, Dax tackled the nearest one, slamming his exoglove into its helmet. Electricity surged. The executor twitched, then collapsed. But the third one didn't fall. It turned fast, striking Dax in the chest. The punch threw him across the room. He hit the wall hard. Ribs screaming. The executor raised its arm, aiming something that looked like a neural dister. Just as it fired, a piercing cry echoed through the shelter. Y-A-R-I, the baby. The sound froze, the executor in place. Then it turned toward the Krita ward. The floor panel. No, Dax gasped, crawling forward, not her. The executor reached down. The panel burst open. Sayla exploded from the crawl space, her body glowing, eyes blazing with violet light. She grabbed the executor's arm and let out a sound that was not a scream, more like a pulse. The light from her body surged into the suit. The executor stopped moving, then shattered armor cracking like glass. Wires snapping, silence followed. Sayla stood there, breathing hard, her arms shaking. She had protected her child with something more powerful than Dax had ever seen. He stared. What? What was that? She looked down at him, tears forming. They did something to me, when I was pregnant. Tried to awaken something old. Something lost in my people. They thought it failed. But I think I passed it on. She looked toward the baby to her. Yari cooed softly, unharmed. Sayla dropped to her knees beside Dax. You're hurt, he nodded, wincing. Only a couple of ribs. She helped him sit up. Their eyes met. The silence between them now was not cold. It was full of something heavy truth, fear, and something warmer. Then Dax whispered, "We can't stay here." Selah looked toward the open door. "They'll send more." "I know," he said, "but I'm not leaving you, either of you." She nodded, blinking away tears. Dax reached into a crate and pulled out a dusty metal box. He opened it inside. Were coordinates and an old access key. "What's that?" Selah asked. Hope, Dax said. "An emergency evac ship, hidden in the frozen valley. Only I know where it is. No one ever cared to ask." He looked at her. "Can you walk?" She nodded. "Then we leave tonight." As they packed supplies and wrapped the baby tight, Dax looked back at the broken executors. One man, one alien mother, and a child the galaxy wanted gone had just taken down machines designed to erase life. The storm outside was clearing, but a new storm was coming, one they would face together, and in the quiet between the frost and the fire. The baby cried again, not in fear, but in life. The snow was falling again, light this time. Like ash from a sleeping volcano, Dax pushed through the white curtain with Selah close behind. She carried baby Yari against her chest, wrapped in heat-reflective foil, and pressed tightly to her body. Every breath she took steamed the air, and her eyes constantly scanned the frozen cliffs above. The sky had turned dark purple. "We're close," Dax said, his voice a whisper over the soft crunch of ice beneath their boots. "How close?" Selah asked, her voice hoarse. 2 kilometers. Just across that ridge, emergency evac pod buried under the snow. They didn't talk after that. Every sound might draw attention. The executors might already be scanning again, or worse, using cloaked hunters. The wind picked up. Dax's visor blinked. Red temperature, dropping fast. "Storm's changing. Too cold. We need to stop." He pointed to a sharp crack in the cliff wall, hidden by fallen rocks and a low overhang. Selah hesitated. "In there?" "Only shelter around," Dax said. "Come on." The small cave was barely wide enough for both of them. The ceiling dripped from old ice melt. Dax unpacked 2 heat cells and attached them to a thermal blanket, laying it across the cave floor. Selah sat down slowly. Her hands were numb, her legs shook. Baby Yari was quiet, eyes closed, but her skin was cool. "We need more heat, Selah," said panic rising in her voice. Dax checked his equipment. "We're down to the last core. Use it." He hesitated. "If we use it now, and the evac pod isn't functional?" "She'll die before then," Selah whispered. "Die." Dax looked at her. Her lips were blue, her fingers white at the tips. He cursed under his breath and made a decision. He tore open the heat core, split it, and wrapped one half around Yari's small body. The other, he slid into Salah's blanket. Then he did something he hadn't done in years. He removed his upper jacket. "What are you doing?" she asked, shocked. He slipped under the thermal layer beside her and pulled her and the baby closer. "Body heat," he said. "It's more efficient skin to skin." "You know, that..." She didn't respond at first. Then slowly, she leaned into him. Her forehead touched his chest. "I never thought," she whispered, "that a human would be the one keeping me alive. I didn't think I'd ever be trusted by anyone again," Dax muttered. Silence filled the cave. Their breathing synced. Baby stirred between them, warm now, her small arms moving. "I used to think warmth just meant heat," Selah said. "But now, it feels different. It feels like, like safety." "Maybe that's what it always was," Dax answered. Hours passed. Dax barely slept. But when he opened his eyes again, he saw Selah staring at him. She was glowing faintly. Those soft patterns on her skin like starlight under her collarbones. The baby lay curled between them, peaceful. "Are you warm now?" he asked. She nodded. "You gave us more than warmth." He raised an eyebrow. "You gave us something that feels like family." Dax didn't reply. He couldn't. His throat was tight. Outside, The storm began to fade, but the cave lights flickered once, then again. Dax sat up fast. "No signal inside here," he said. "Something's interfering." "Drones," said, pulling out his scanner. "It's local." He stood and moved to the back of the cave. There, half covered in frozen dirt, was something metal, burnt, old, a dead transmitter. Dax brushed away snow, and what he saw made his chest go cold. "It's part of a ship." Sayla's eyes widened. "What ship?" Dax shook his head. "Dax. Not human, but old. Really old." He activated his glove light. The metal had strange alien runes carved into it, and then he saw it at body, curled in the corner, frozen in place, wearing robes. Skin long turned to ice, but unmistakably the same species as Sayla. She stepped forward slowly. "That symbol," she said, pointing to the robe. "He was one of the old ones. My people believed they were extinct. Guess someone forgot to send him the memo," Dax said grimly. Suddenly Yari cried, loud, strong. The cry echoed across the cave and made the frost on. The walls tremble, and then something impossible happened. The runes on the ship glowed just for a second. Sayla stumbled back. "What was that?" Dax grabbed his pack. "We're leaving now." "I don't know," he said, "but that baby just woke something up, and I don't want to be around to find out what." They rushed from the cave, and behind them the frozen body cracked. Its eyes glowed. Asterisk. The snow crunched under Dax's boots as he led the way down the icy ridge behind him. Sayla carried baby Yari, wrapped tight, pressed close to her chest. Her steps were slower now, exhaustion pulling at her, but her eyes remained sharp, flicking toward the skies again and again. She had felt it back in that cave. Something ancient had stirred. Something that recognized Yari's cry. She called to it, Sayla whispered. "My baby." Awakened something that should have stayed dead. Dax didn't reply. His jaw was tight. His eyes locked on the snowy horizon. They had to move faster. The evac pod was near a hidden craft buried deep under frozen earth, just where he'd left it years ago when he came to this moon to disappear. Now it was their only chance to survive. By late morning, they reached a deep ravine between two jagged cliffs. "This is it," Dax said. He dropped to his knees and started clearing snow with gloved hands, then pulled out a sonic spade from his gear. The tool buzzed softly as it melted through layers of ice and dust. Sayla knelt beside him. "You buried a ship here?" He nodded. "Emergency pod, not registered. I didn't trust anyone when I got sent here. Always had an escape plan. You think it still works? We're about to find out." After 20 minutes of digging, metal glinted in the sun. A hatch. Dax wiped it clean and pressed his hand to the scanner. Nothing happened. "Come on," he muttered. He hit it again. This time a faint blue light blinked on. "Identity match confirmed," a robotic voice said. "Pilot Dax Renner." "Welcome back." The hatch hissed open. Inside the pod, the air was stale but warm. The interior was small, only 3 seats and a tight cockpit, but it would do. Lights flickered to life as the ship hummed awake, systems checking themselves after years of silence. Sayla stepped in and looked around. "It's small. It's freedom," Dax replied. He helped her into the back seat and secured the baby beside her. Yari had fallen asleep again, her tiny chest rising and falling with calm rhythm. "Stay inside," Dax said. "Let me run the launch test." He moved to the controls and started flicking switches. Engines, fuel lines, heat shielding, all green. One more cycle and they'd be off this frozen moon forever. But just as the engines powered up, boom, the sound came from outside. Dax's heart stopped. He turned to the monitor. A red dot, then another, and another. More than drones. A ship, incoming fast. "They found us." He whispered. Sayla's voice trembled. "We can't fight a ship." "What?" Dax stood, pulled open a panel in the pod floor, and yanked out a dusty old satchel. Inside, an ancient ignition flare, modified for sabotage. "What are you doing?" she asked. "I'll distract them," Dax said. "Draw them away. You take off when the engines are hot." No, she cried. You'll be caught killed. I'm not risking your lives. Not after everything. He stepped to the door. Selah stood and grabbed his arm. Her voice cracked. You're more than just a human now, Dax. You're our fire. Don't burn alone. For a second, the world was still. Then Dax said, Then help me light it. They moved fast. Outside, the enemy ship descended with a roar, its black hull gleaming with cold lights. More executors dropped from its belly 6. Then 8 marching toward the evac site. But they didn't see Dax already in position above them on the ridge. He raised the ignition flare, looked down at the baby, then at Selah, and launched it. Hoo, oomph. The flare exploded mid-air bright, burning hot, releasing a massive heat signature. The executors' turn sensors triggered. Over there. One barked. They stormed toward the ridge. Dax grinned. Come and get me. He sprinted across the snowy rocks, leading them away. Behind him, the evac pod's engines rumbled louder. Sot's in the pilot's seat now, fingers shaking as she repeated the launch sequence Dax had shown her. Come on! Come on! Baby Yari cried out again, louder, sharper. The pod's power surged. Systems flared to full. Yari's voice. It amplified something. As if her presence itself made machines listen, and the ship responded. Launch sequence confirmed. T-minus 10 seconds. On the ridge. Dax was out of breath. An executor tackled him to the ground, but he reached into his jacket, pulled free a backup flare, and stabbed it into the snow. Boom. Flame and smoke erupted. He slipped free-rolling. Down the slope, just as the evac pod lifted from the ground behind him, its engines roaring. Selah was at the helm. The ship rose into the sky, heat scattering the snow around it. She looked down through the glass and saw Dax wounded but alive running toward the clearing. He turned, smiled. The ship door opened. He leaped inside, collapsed in a heap. She ran to him, grabbed his face with trembling hands. You idiot, she whispered. You didn't have to come back. His voice was weak. I told you humans don't leave family behind. Asterisk, the stars were beautiful. From the evac pod's cockpit, they stretched like silver rivers across the black void, but Dax wasn't admiring them. He was slumped in the co-pilot's seat, bleeding from a cut on his shoulder, trying to stay awake. Selah hovered beside him, her fingers shaking as she cleaned the wound. Don't sleep, she whispered. You promised me you wouldn't leave us. I won't, Dax muttered, forcing a grin. It's too stubborn to die. Baby Yari rested quietly in a small storage basket nearby, wrapped in the soft liner of Selah's jacket. Her glowing skin shimmered faintly with every breath. Selah's eyes kept drifting to her child, and then to Dax. Something had changed since the cave. It wasn't just the way Yari cried louder or the way technology responded to her. It was deeper in her bones, feeling, and she needed to know the truth. An hour later, while Dax rested with a pain patch, over his ribs, Selah stood in the back of the pod with the portable med scanner. She had never used human tech before, but Dax had shown her enough. She carefully drew a drop of blood from Yari's tiny finger. The scanner blinked, scanned, then beeped. Genetic match found. Selah froze. The screen showed 2 sets of DNA. One hers, expected. The other Dax Renner, she gasped. Her knees gave out, and she sat hard on the floor. No, that can't be. But the scanner didn't lie. The child she had risked everything to protect was half human, half Dax. Her mind raced back to the prison, the experiments, the scientists who injected her with unknown fluids, whispering about hybrid prototypes. She thought it was just random splicing alien DNA mixed with gene samples they had stolen from Earth. But now she realized it wasn't random. They had used Dax. He stirred in his seat, groaning. You okay back there? She didn't answer. She stepped forward slowly, her face pale, her voice shaking. Dax, I need to tell you something. Something I didn't know until now. He sat up, confused. What is it? She held up the scanner and the truth. He stared at it, unblinking. My DNA. Selah nodded. You're her father. Silence filled the ship. Dax leaned back slowly, his face blank. Then, after a long pause, he said, "I never gave them my DNA." Sayla sat beside him. "When were you captured?" "I wasn't," he said. "But after I left the military, I was in cryosleep for transport to this moon. 6 months? Could have taken anything then." He nodded. "That's when they got it." "I didn't know," he said. His voice was low, almost broken. "I had no idea." She reached out and gently placed her hand over his. "You didn't choose this. Neither did I. But she's here now. She's special." Dax looked toward the baby. Yari smiled in her sleep. "That's why the machines react to her," he whispered. "She's not just a mix. She's linked to 2 worlds. Both of them want to erase her," Sayla said. "No," Dax replied firmly. "They'll have to erase me first." Suddenly, the pod's warning lights blinked red. "Incoming signal unknown." Origin Sayla jumped into the pilot seat. "Someone found us?" Dax checked the comms panel. "No, not a tracking signal. It's a transmission. Encrypted. Deep code frequency." "From who?" Dax squinted at the screen. "Says origin. Carol 9. Source. Forgotten object." Sayla's blood ran cold. "The ship fragment," she whispered. "From the cave." Dax clicked the decrypt. A voice came through, distorted, ancient. "You carry the flame that was forbidden. The child sings to the old stars. Bring her, or we will come." Then silence. Sayla stared at the speaker, horrified. "They're not done with us." She said, "They were never after you." Dax realized. "They were after her. They planted that ship as a beacon." Yari activated it. Sayla clutched her baby. "Where can we go? They'll follow us through the stars." Dax opened a hidden panel on the pod and slid out an old chip military grade. "Then we go where no one follows." He slid it into the nav system. A hidden jump route appeared: the Grave Belt, a derelict starfield full of shipwrecks and radiation storms, placed even bounty hunters avoided. "Are you crazy?" Sayla asked. "No one dares go there," Dax said, "which means it's the only place safe for her." Sayla looked down at Yari, whose golden eyes had opened and were watching both of them quietly. Dax smiled faintly. "Looks like she's already stronger than both of us." "She is," Sayla said, "but she needs you." He looked at her. "You too." Their hands met between the seats, not out of fear, but out of choice. A choice to protect a child who could change everything. The stars outside shifted as the jump drive charged. Behind them, the ancient ship fragment back on the moon pulsed with strange energy and far away. In deep space, something else awakened. It had heard the child's blood, and it was coming. The stars around them blurred. The evac pod burst into the hidden path known as the Grave Belta. Dark stretch of broken ships and shattered moons. Asteroids drifted like sleeping giants. Faint electric storms flickered between ruined hulls. This place was silent and forgotten, but not dead. Inside the pod, baby Yari blinked her golden eyes. The lights around her shimmered in time with her tiny breaths. It was like she pulled the ship's soul forward. "She's guiding the jump," Sayla whispered, watching the controls shift with no touch. "She feels the path better than the computer." "She is the path," Dax said quietly. He stood behind, her armor strapped tight, pulse rifle at his side. His wound was still sore, but his eyes burned with purpose. The pod's alert beeped. "Warning, incoming warp signature. They found us," Dax muttered. Outside the ship, space twisted. From the void, a black ship emerged, sleek, silent, shaped like a dagger. Its hull shimmered with ancient tech, far beyond what even Earth had mastered. Symbols crawled across its surface like living code. Sayla's breath caught. "It's one of theirs. The old enforcers, the same race that once ruled her people now. They wanted her daughter." The cum crackled. A voice, calm, smooth, and human, filled the pod. "You carry the forbidden flame. The hybrid must be surrendered. Presence is a fracture in the code of life." Dax stepped forward. "You want her? Want her? Come and try." The enemy ship deployed 3 drones, fleek, silver, and fast. Pod like knives through the dark. Dax grabbed the controls. "Sayla, hold the baby. Don't move." He threw the pod into a spin barrel, rolling through wreckage as the drones gave chase. Laser fire streaked past the window, scorching debris. Dax slammed the pod into a tight turn behind an old cruiser wreck. "We can't outrun them forever." "I'll protect her," Sayla said firmly, holding Yari to her chest. Dax opened the weapon cache one last tool, a fusion mine. Cracked casing, unstable. He grinned. "Perfect." He rigged it to the pod's underbelly. "Open the cargo door when I say." "Dax, what are you doing?" "I'm going out there." "No," she cried. He looked at her. "I gave up on life once. Let them send me here. Let them forget me. But you and that little girl gave me something back." He touched Yari's forehead gently. "I'm not just human anymore," he said. "I'm hers." The door opened. Dax jumped. The cold of space wrapped around him. He activated his suit thrusters and flew straight toward the oncoming drones. They saw him, too late. He slammed the fusion mine between them and kicked backward. Boom! Explosion rocked the grave belt. Fire danced across wrecked ships. 2 drones were gone instantly. The third spun out of control. Dax tumbled through the debris. His suit warning screamed oxygen low. The enemy ship turned its attention toward him. It didn't fire. It spoke. "Why do you fight for them, human? They are broken. Genes. Mistakes." Dax floated still, breath shallow. Then he smiled, blood on his lip. "Because you're wrong." He raised his hand fist, clenched, revealing a beacon. A human one, and we're never alone. He pressed it. From the black sky behind, an old Earth warship blinked into existence, forgotten. It's hidden long ago in this graveyard. It roared too. Life cannon ports open, Dax's back up. The ship's AI, once his, had never shut down. "You were right to hide me," the ship's voice said. "Now let me show them our fire." The warship opened fire. Beams of plasma ripped into the alien craft. The enemy ship fought back, but Dax's warship was older, angrier, and full of spite. Rammed the enemy vessel, directly exploding in. A flash of white fire. Dax's body tumbled through the blast. Inside the pod, Sayla cried out, "Dax, static." Then silence. "No. Please no." She held Yari tight. The child's eyes fluttered. And then Yari screamed. A sound no infant should make, deep, ancient, commanding, and somewhere beyond sight. Something answered. A warm pulse spread across the grave belt like a signal to life itself. Sayla felt it, and then in the monitor. Dax's signal reappeared, weak but alive. She flew the pod toward him, fast as it could go. When she found him, floating unconscious, she cried and screamed and laughed all at once. She pulled him inside, slapped him awake, kissed his forehead through the blood. He opened his eyes. "You came back," he muttered. "We're family now," she said through tears. "And humans don't leave family behind." Later, as the pod drifted toward a new safe zone far beyond the charts, Dax sat beside Sayla and Yari. The baby slept between them. "What do we do now?" she asked. "We raise her," Dax said. "We teach her right from wrong. We protect her from the galaxy. One day," he looked to the stars, "she'll protect it from itself, 'cause warmth isn't just heat, it's love. And fire that only a human heart can give."